Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to be here and to talk to all of you about our industry, everything that's happening, and everything that is going to happen. I am Michael Duenas. I am co-founder of Support Creatives and also a hairdresser. And I am so excited and thrilled to be here with these great minds and these very impactful people. And I am just honored to be in their presence. I want to start introducing everybody because I think that's the best way to get to know each other and give a little icebreaker. And you see such amazing faces on here. It's just an honor to see everyone. And I think that if we all band together, we can be an amazing change to the industry as well as huge support for artists that need it. And that's why Support Creatives is here. We're here to support you, empower you, build your kits, build your minds, and build the powers that we have. Because if you guys didn't notice, there was protests for hairdressers to come back to work and makeup artists to come back to work before there was anything else. And I think that is awesome. That shows the power that we have. And we need to harness and hold on to that power for everyone to know. And that's kind of like what this is about, is to showcase that we're not just a hair and makeup artist, a business owner, a CEO, that we are more than that. We're influential in this world alone and not just our industry. So I'm gonna kind of pass the baton off, and I would love Karen Chambers to introduce herself and say hi to the world.
Hi, well, thanks for having me. Karen Chambers. I'm the Executive Vice President of IMAN Cosmetics, and I've been in the industry, dare I even say it, close to 30 years. And I am just really excited to be here. I've been in many facets of the industry, from product development to my first job working behind the counter to advertising, to so many facets of the industry. And so it's wonderful to be in the business at this time and to share the platform with all these incredibly talented, some old friends and new friends in this environment today. Thanks.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having us. Karen, you are amazing, and thank you. So DANESSA MYRICKS, please tell us about yourself.
Hey, hi everybody, I'm DANESSA MYRICKS. I am a makeup artist now for a little over 20 years, as you can tell by all my new COVID gray. I am the owner of DANESSA MYRICKS Beauty, and I spend a lot of time consulting with brands all over the world, from drugstore to prestige, doing product development for their brands and education. It's really exciting to be on this today, and for all of you who sent your messages and your questions, we really appreciate that, and we're super excited for the discussion.
I can't believe how many questions we got, and I am so excited for people to be able to get those answered and us to be able to answer them for them. I think this is going to be quite amazing. Bobbi Brown, would you please like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi guys, I'm Bobbi Brown, and I have been a makeup artist, I guess probably, I don't know, 35 years or something. I actually studied makeup in college, got my degree from Emerson as a makeup artist. I moved to New York and I started pounding the pavement, became a freelance makeup artist when there were not people doing that really. And I started a cosmetics brand, Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, the same year I had my first son. He just turned 30. So that is a whole nother journey. And now I left Bobbi Brown Cosmetics, October will be 4 years. And now I have a company called Evolution 18, which is beauty and wellness from the inside out. I was also really fortunate to shoot a masterclass on my makeup technique. You guys know I'm known for the under made up. So I'm really honored and happy to be here. And I can't believe that I'm with all these incredibly talented people that I look up to, and it's really cool. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here. We're truly honored. Patrick Ta, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi guys, I am Patrick Ta. I've been doing makeup now for about 8 years. I started my career on social media, and I've gotten a lot of help from a lot of other makeup artists, especially one in this Sir John. I moved to Los Angeles like 7 years ago, and I just started a makeup line about a year ago, and I'm sort of still like figuring everything out like right now. So I think it's so important to have conversations like this, because even like people like us, like we all need help, and it's so good that we're all coming together and we're all talking about like what's happening in the world right now, and how we can do better.
And I think that's amazing that we're able to do that and be here and do that together. And I am so thrilled that you're able to start your own line and get things going, because that is not an easy feat nowadays, and keep it going. So all of you that have that, that is huge, huge. Sam Fine, I was not expecting that beard when you logged on, and I love it. So let's talk.
You know, it's a byproduct of COVID for sure. And it definitely shows my 30 years having been in the beauty industry, having dedicated my career to beautifying women of color, seeing on the call so many friends and mentors and contemporaries. I'm so happy to be on this call with you guys. I authored a book, Fine Beauty, you know, after seeing Bobbi Brown's book, Kevin Aquan's book, and needing more of a voice for women of color to showcase our beauty and techniques that work for us. And also worked on a DVD. I've been the first African-American spokesperson for both Revlon and CoverGirl, and creative makeup director for Fashion Fair. So I've had a good ride. And once again, I'm just happy to be here with you guys.
We are honored. And for doing all that, I mean, look how good everyone looks. It's crazy. Everyone's worked so hard and everyone still looks good. It's impressive. So that brings us to Sir John. Sir John, I'm just going to throw a little shout out for him. The reason this town hall is happening is because of Sir John. He reached out to us right when we launched Support Creatives and said, how can I help? How can I be a part? And he was really, really motivated to help make our industry stronger and better in every aspect. He even did a campaign with Motorola where proceeds are donated to Support Creatives. And it's just amazing to have support like that when we're trying to launch a new initiative and something different and a different type of nonprofit than others that are out there. So we're so eternally grateful. Sir John, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Hey guys, I'm Sir John, and I've been a makeup artist for a while. I don't know exactly how long. I used to assist Pat and Charlotte and Sam Fine, but I'm just really proud of this place that we're in. It's a safe space for us to inspire other people, for us to rally around people who don't necessarily have the journey or have the experience or even have the stories to, you know, to champion around. So I'm just ready to dive right into it, guys. I love that you are all here representing so many diverse backgrounds and just discipline. So I'm just blessed to be here. That's it.
It's amazing. Thank you. I mean, between all of us, I can't even fathom how many years of experience we have, just knowing that I've been doing hair for 20 years and some of us have been doing our crafts for maybe like 21 years. You know, I'm not going to age anyone, but, you know, just a little longer. So the amount of insight and knowledge and experience that is bringing forward right now is amazing. So first and foremost, I would like to know how you guys have been staying creative during this pandemic and being quarantined. Like what have you been doing to keep your minds stimulated? Anyone can start. You can jump in.
Oh my God, reading. I welcome the pause. I really have enjoyed the pause of COVID, and I enjoyed the opportunity to dive into things that, you know, the books that are on my list that I wanted to pick up. It's also been a great time to connect with people, you know, friends that I don't often get a chance to spend the quality time that I'd like to with. Of course, social distancing, you know, and giving me the opportunity to work on projects that have been sitting on the shelf that I owe it to myself and owe it to everyone who's watching us to produce.
I think that's fantastic.
I think I've been oh no, please, Danessa, go for it. Yeah, go.
Well, mine is really simple. Lots of eating first. I don't fit any of my clothes. I don't know if anybody's eaten more than I have over these last couple of months. But outside of that, really, I think I share the same sentiment as you, Sam. The reading has been amazing. I've taken 100 online classes, and I've really had the time to evaluate my entire business during this time, which was great. Even though it was pretty scary time, I think I got a lot of work done, actually, just being able to sit still finally. So there are some benefits to being locked up.
I think I've been working at
agree.
mindfulness, guys, like working with like National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, and just trying to make sure that I bring psychotherapists to talk, during this time, the best way is through, the best way to get through this is of service. So, switching gears instead of just, talking about beauty or glam all the time, it's a personal job. It's an inside job. How we feel about beauty. Beauty is a feeling, in my opinion. So I wanted to get ahead of it and be more mindful, like understand myself better, understand my audience better in a way that it's in a novel direction. It has nothing to do with cosmetics. I think that as we look at beauty and we look at cosmetics, it is so emotional. As we produce something that covers a scar is a childhood, it triggers something from yesteryear. You can't look your handbag in the face like you do your concealer or your foundation or whatever that looks like. So it's such an emotional place that I've been doing a bit more discovery on mental health and just that kind of thing. And I've been doing some lives, and it's been fun.
And I've been really blessed being with my family, my kids, their girlfriends, now fiancés. So I've been cleaning and doing laundry, and I really am terrible at it, but I've been doing a lot of that. And, I'm also a health coach now. I went back to school and got my degree, and I've been really focusing on how I feel and what I eat and what I put in my body. And that's been really helpful. And I do think the positive about all of this is connecting to people that you don't normally get to meet. And I've done a lot of Instagram lives, just kind of talking about what's happening. And it is a great pause. And on Evolution 18, we've hired a few new people, and we have these Zoom meetings, and we're all able to say, okay, what really makes sense? Why are we doing that? That costs too much money. No, let's do that. So it is great to have a reset button. And, I think we're going to all come out of this better people. And on a beauty thing, I have cut my hair. I have taken out my extensions. I have no plan to get them back. I've cut my nails, and I love how simple I am and real. And I just hope that continues.
That's amazing. I love that you just pulled everything out and you're like, here I am.
I was done.
I can definitely relate to a lot of that. I've been doing lots of home grooming all by myself and figuring it all out. And then really, also on the brand side, when we first took a look at what made sense to even be posting on social media, et cetera, it was just not the time to go, okay, buy this new glossy lipstick, and everybody's behind masks and figuring out, do they have jobs and all of that. So, some of the things that we've been experimenting with is, bringing on people who are psychotherapists. We brought a psychotherapist to do some tips and some suggestions, bringing on people to talk about, hey, put your pajamas aside, put some clothes on, show up for Zoom, feel good about yourself. So we decided to get a little bit more into people's lifestyles and thinking a little bit more about who they are as 360-degree people. And the honest thing is just stopping and going, well, what do I need right now? Because it's not a glam time, it just isn't. It's a time of reconnecting, trying to find yourself. Just reading even today about people dealing with depression and OCD and lots of things that are very, very real about what has come up for folks. So I think it's been a much more sensitive time, which is really nice. And I would love to see our industry become a little bit more sensitive, because it's not just all about the external. And so this has definitely been a time I can relate to Sam and DANESSA and everybody talking about reading more, connecting more, and just being human beings first and then professional people. So that's been a focal point of mine.
That's incredible. That's actually a really good change. And to your point with mental illness and things of that nature, that is now running even more rampant in our industry with things being shut down. It's affected way more people. And that's something that should be open, honest, and addressed and not hidden. We had a small movement with that, and I think it just needs to be out there and not be looked down upon. If you are depressed, it shouldn't be looked down upon. There should be people willing to help. So that's a very valid point to bring up. So we got a lot of questions, and we are going to try to answer as many of them as we can for you guys. Just to let you know, there's almost 1,000 questions that we received. So we don't have the time to go through 1,000, but we will go through as many as we can. And if there's anything that is pertinent that we missed, or something that you guys would like to bring up, I'm currently looking at our chat on the website so I can address those as well. So feel free to ask those. Kind of one of the bigger ones that I think can apply to everyone, especially for those that own brands, run brands, and this applies to us freelancers as well, is what do you think we're going to have to do to get back to work post-COVID? So what are the steps that we have to do to keep our products clean and or our faces and or stations clean? Because that's a huge one. For those that make products, I know that everything is packaged and sterile, but you can't control what someone does afterwards. What would you suggest with the products that you have for someone to keep them clean? And for makeup artists, what do you guys suggest for if you're doing a panel and you have a lot of your clients lined up, how are you supposed to switch between your brushes so fast without contaminating? What's this new world look like to you?
So I recently received a sterilizer. It's a machine that you can put your brushes, your like tweezers, like any eyelash colors into, and you can put like blushes, like anything into this, and it takes about 20 minutes, and you can sterilize like each item. But I actually started working about last week, and just being in the environment of like wearing masks and having to wear, I mean, I wear these goggles that I actually love wearing just because I think they look they look cool. But it's really weird to have to only have it, like I'm not able to bring an assistant to work anymore. I'm not able to just, you're not able to like be in these like environments that we're so used to. And but I've seen that jobs have gone by quicker just because they're getting exactly what they need instead of just like shooting all day long. Or but I think I think it was a pretty easy like move back into work, just having to like clean your whole entire kit. And
but many people are asking that we come tested. They are asking for us to get tested before we return to work. My recent transition into television and film changes things greatly because, you know, I recently worked with Queen Latifah for Hollywood on the Netflix series. And, you know, when I wasn't working with her, I did background to get my hours, you know, towards my health insurance. And many people are in the union, I'm sure, who are watching and understand that. And it's going to be daunting. I don't imagine going back. We had 250 extras. I don't know how this is going to look, how much makeup we're going to ask them to do, and how much we can be allowed to do to adjust to make sure they fit the period.
That's going to be a hard one with 250 people. It's a whole new world to figure out.
I have a question for you guys. So for me, COVID, speaking on COVID, it's situational, right? So I know that, you know, we look at COVID and we were trained a lot on, you know, how to talk to the consumer, from Bobby to DANESSA, Karen, Sam, Patrick, how to talk to the consumer, you know, how to, you know, week 1 was different than week 12 in terms of maybe now we can usher in color, we can get yourself skincare and celebrate National Lipstick Day. It's a personal movement, all those kind of things. How do you feel, how long do you feel that this atmosphere is going to sort of lay on us? You think 24 months, 12 months? What do you see this as the new normal happening just in general, or what's the expiration date in your opinion?
I think until they find, you know, a vaccine, our life is going to be different. And, you know, as a friend of mine who's in the health industry, he said, you know, people don't realize that the common cold and the flu was as rampant, you know, especially in the winter times, and people were not cleaning their hands. They were not protecting themselves. So this is something that people should have been doing all along. And so I think that we're going to be wearing masks and we're going to be, you know, social distancing, but as we get more comfortable, we're going to get to see our friends and we're going to go back to work. And there's going to be a lot of working from home for people that have offices. And the good news is companies hopefully will be able to save a lot of money because you don't need to spend all that money in travel. We could be doing makeup, you know, lessons to people at Zoom. And I've already gotten hired for 2 different stay-at-home speeches, and one of them was giving a makeup lesson to the people at home. So there's going to be a lot of new creative ways for people to make money if you think about, you know, our new normal.
I think I agree, but I also think that when things like this happen, you can't erase it. So whatever people experienced during these last months, it's staying with them forever. And I think people are going to be hypersensitive. So whatever it was that we were doing before in terms of safety and sanitation, everything's going to have to be amplified. And I think what's expected of artists from your clients is going to be amplified. I mean, if you think about how people reacted before COVID, if you sneezed, imagine now, you know, if you think about how people felt when they didn't necessarily see you wash your hands before you came onto the set compared to now. So I think there is no going back to what it was before. And honestly, I think it gave artists an opportunity to really evaluate just their skill set as a whole. And as you mentioned, Sir John, just how you interact with your clients, because I think there is going to have to be a lot more conversation, a lot more, how are you feeling? A lot more, are you comfortable with me doing this? Because the sensitivity is going to be there for a really, really long time, if not forever, in my opinion.
But DANESSA, I'd like to think that we're having those conversations prior.
Yeah.
You know, I'd like to think that we were asking our clients how they felt about certain things. You know, many of our clients have had, children recently, and they're, or parents who have illness, and they have to be concerned about what they're bringing home. So these are always things that we've dealt with, for sure.
For sure.
And I can say on the brand side, in terms of consumer goods, I had a very productive conversation with one of our major retail buyers. And what was lovely is that we just didn't dive right into business. We talked about how our consumers are feeling. Because I think whether you're talking about, a celebrity, you're talking about being on set somewhere, or you're talking about your everyday woman, this is a very humanizing process. And we have to be thinking about how does that person on the other end of that product or experience, how do they feel? And so it was great to talk about that. Like, what does it feel like to be behind a mask all day? What does it feel like to not be interacting with people in a manner that has human touch and connectivity like we used to? So I think that sensitivity hopefully will help us all be in a better place as far as just being more cognizant of how we deal with people as people first.
And I bet most of the business discussions you've had with these people starts with, how are you doing?
Yes.
How are you? What's happening? And that's something that we all we all kind of like blew away because we were all so busy, like getting ahead, trying to do this. Like, no, take a step back. How are you doing? How's your family? What's happening? So I think that's positive.
But, and I agree, but as many freelancers are on the call, and many of the people who are watching are freelancers, we're hired to do a job. We go from job to job. And a lot of times I don't feel that people are concerned about the people around them. And so hopefully that has changed as well, because no one cares about usually what's going on in your life. They only care about what is required of the day. And to Karen's point, it's strange now to wear a mask, and so much of our facial expressions, smiling at a neighbor and being able to say hello with a laugh, right. It doesn't register. It is crazy. So I'm finding myself talking louder through a mask and finding myself overreacting with joy, so people know what kind of mood I'm expressing.
Can I say, Sam and Karen and Bobby and everybody, one thing you have to realize is that we have a duty to have an emotional connection with our clients, not just our clients, but consumers, the brands, it doesn't matter if you're at a big brand or whatever that looks like. Emotional connections are honestly, the only reason I'm even on the call with all you beautiful people, talented people, is because I believe first, it's great to be a great makeup artist. Anyone listening, it's great to be a great hairstylist, but we're in the business of people, and how we make people feel is how they'll campaign for you. They'll fight for you. They'll, make sure they pay your rate or whatever that looks like. And also with brands, I think brands are having a huge, massive wake up call at the moment to really lean into the consumer. Don't have them lean into you guys. Lean into the consumer. Start to, echo their voices, their sentiments, hear their voices. And that, even as we look at Black Lives Matter and what's happening right now, this social revolution that's happening, that's not this so much larger than COVID. Because this is just, it changes. I mean, listen, when you see all these people all around the world galvanizing and walking in one direction, I think the best thing to do from a small like from a small salon to a massive brand is to follow suit. And I think that we just have to look at right now, what are we doing? What's our messaging? How can we, you know, we want to be on the same vibrational alignment as the women that we want just to purchase our stuff, the clients that we want to have. So it's bigger than makeup. It's bigger than hair. It is, it's a connection. It's people, you know?
So John,
That's what brings me.
I'm so happy that you said that, because I have to tell you, for me, I have had a lot of anxiety just around just having to be completely different in this space. If anybody who knows me, the first thing I do is grab people and hug them like so tight till they can't breathe. Like my smile, like I'm trying to contain it right now because my glasses might raise. Like I love like massaging people on set, and I work with my hands. Like 90% of what I do when I'm with my client is with my hands. And so, I mean, I'd love to hear how you guys feel about this. I feel so disconnected from who I was as an artist before COVID, because I don't know how to be. So it's tricky for me. You know, no one, it's like you said, Sam, nobody can see your smile. And I'm like, how am I going to show this emotion with a glove on, with a mask on? Do I have to wear gloves? Oh my God, am I going to have to redo my whole process of doing makeup now because I have to have a glove on? Like, you know, there's been a lot of anxiety for me personally as an artist around that. So I think there may be a lot of other people who are on the call who are feeling the same way. Just so in terms of like how to re-enter, I think what you said earlier, just Sir John, about that time that you spent like self-evaluating, digging deeper through meditation and all these things, like all of that's going to be really important, because rediscovering yourself, like when you've been doing something for 10 and 20 years, interacting in a completely different way as you do your passion, re-entering into work, like it's a scary prospect. And I think there is going to have to be a lot more hand-holding and coddling, like within the industry as a collective, just taking care of each other in that regard. Because like mentally, I'm more concerned about my mental state going back to work than anything else, you know?
But I bet there's gonna be a lot of girls doing their own makeup with you telling them, fix it, that's good, you need more blush. Like in the beginning, I think there's baby steps that are gonna happen. And, you know, I think it's gonna take time, and I think we all have to adapt and adjust, but I'm waiting for a brand to come out with disposable brushes because I think that's something that's so needed. And
See Danessa laughing right there.
No, but seriously, disposable brushes, you know me, I'm always
doing it.
Well, yeah, and also little like things of lipstick, how about, you know, because the department store makeup brands are gonna have to figure out how to sell things. So we need little teeny things, and maybe a makeup artist kit, you know, becomes the sample sizes that you give away or throw away.
Yep.
Right.
Get on it if someone's listening out there, Revlon or somebody.
Yeah.
No, like here's the thing, like you bring up any idea and Danessa's like, yep, I'm doing it. That's why I start laughing, because like Danessa's probably just like, cool, jotting it down. She's like making it happen, right?
I'll give you my ideas and I'll text you.
But many of us artists are so fortunate to work with a handful of clients that for me, it's very easy for me to build a kit for Queen Latifah, for Vanessa Williams, for Iman, and say that this is what I'm gonna use on you. I can have a separate brush palette. I mean, even going back to television and film, you know, now production may have to invest in this number 1, number 2, number 3 celebrity, their own full kit of makeup, if that's what's gonna make me as an artist feel more comfortable applying it, and them as a client feel more comfortable receiving it.
So Sam, can I say something to that? You know, a lot of people who are watching, and one thing, Michael, I want to take my hat off to you again, brother, because of the fact that during this space and this time, you immediately jumped into action. Like, okay, how can we wrap our arms and our, you know, our minds around people who aren't always, you know, on every set, who, you know, when you think about it, salons and barbershops and nail shops, they prop up America. Those are the businesses that are really like the brick and mortar of our business, you know? So the thing is, I just hope that they also realize when you're down, when I say down at home, still connect with your consumer. Like I used to sweep, one of my first jobs was sweeping the floor at my cousin's salon. And it's like, babe, listen, even though you're at home, they still need you. They came to you weekly because you gave them, you know, something spiritual. When you wash their hair, when you talk to them, like a bartender, don't lose that. Like, get on the phone, talk to them, do lives with your clients. If you have, smaller businesses that happen to be in one location, you still have to keep that connectivity, and also keep your voice alive with your clients or your branding or your consumers or customers, whatever that looks like. Don't go quiet. You can't go silent. This is the time not to be silent.
This is the time to reevaluate your whole business and yourself and your demeanor and reaching out to others. It's well put, Sir John, and it's a point that no one thinks of. Most people that I have talked to that aren't in our industry, at least, have been sitting at home saying, when can I work? When can I do this? Ones in our industry are like, what can I do to better my craft and myself? And those that haven't been doing that, now's your time to do it, because this is a time to rebrand yourself and grow and change your way of doing business. So, I mean, I'm going to segue a little bit, because this pandemic has caused some good to come out and some change. For example, we wouldn't be having this revolution right now if it wasn't for the pandemic. Everyone would be at work and not be able to speak their minds and shout from the rooftops, equal rights, fair rights, civil rights, and that would not be happening right now. So I do want to segue a little bit away from COVID slightly. We are, with our program BOBBI Together, we are donating a portion of our proceeds to Black Lives Matter and NAACP. So the more donations we get, the more we can support those causes. But in saying that, I want to see if we can address a small problem that I see on social media a lot and in other aspects. And I would love you guys to chime in. Is that we had a great question, and this is something I want to address. We're now seeing brands post women of color on their feeds, when before it never was, yet they don't include them in any other aspect. It's just, here's on our feed for a day, yay, we're supporting, but they're not actually supporting. And there's so many women that need these products, and some brands don't cater to them, don't make it. And I understand you can't make every single shade under the sun, but you can get things that are close. But why is it that you think that people are just posting on their socials but not actually actively doing something about it?
Can I go into, do you mind? This is the thing, guys, and I'm really passionate about this issue if anyone hasn't been checking it out. This is the thing. COVID was a period of time, and it was like the appetizer for where we are. This is a revolutionary change. For as long as anyone watching has breath in their body, you will remember this time. And the thing is, it's like, you can't put on, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm just going to keep it real, we're going to shift and pivot. You can't put on blackness as a corporate company as an umbrella to weather the storm during this time. So, like, the reason that everyone you see black, brown, white people out there in the streets are actually, on the front lines is because we're seeing so much injustice that's happened systematically within this country for hundreds of years. It's in the DNA and the fiber of America. How do we move forward? We move forward by talking. We move forward by not just posting and, Black Lives Matter on one dot because black skin doesn't look good on your feed. Like, we're massive consumers. Black people spend $1.2 trillion in 2019 on like consumer goods and beauty. So I just feel like it's the only way forward. And honestly, I think I don't believe in call out culture, but it's time to notice who's not an ally. And the people who aren't allies, the companies that are allies, they just won't be on the right side of history. So I'll just start it there, and you guys can jump in.
I agree. I think it's important to see more Black faces and Black women everywhere, and more products that cater to them, because that doesn't exist. And if you're not joining that, like as Sir John, you just said, you are on the wrong side of history. Because if you can't cater to all color ranges and color zones, I'm not saying you have to have every single shade for every type of complexion, people can mix and match, but you need to at least have that option. Otherwise you are creating that slight divide. And it's hard because there are so many Black women who make or who wear makeup, but there's so little brands that are Black owned and make makeup. And it's just, that part I don't understand, because I'm a hairdresser. So on the makeup side, that's so different. Sir John, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm just passionate. But I want to say something here. You have to also realize that this consumer has been ignored for so long. Like, listen, I grew up in, in the 80s and 90s, and whenever you were looking for products, when my mom was looking for something for her hair, for cosmetics, it was on the floor. It wasn't an eye level. So there's been a trauma and conditioning for Black women since that's a whole different subject. But I think, listen, I'm going to be honest, and this might sound a little controversial. You can't ignore a consumer that everyone ciphers off of. Black Americans are the most copied and imitated people on planet Earth. We might not make legislation, we might not do some of the shit that other people do, but they're the most copied and imitated, period. All the children that you guys see, they're going to want to grow, to aspire to love pop culture that comes from Black Americans. So you have to speak to that consumer and also love that consumer, echo their voices. Like I'm working with L'Oreal Paris at the moment. I have a huge, massive Zoom on Tuesday to talk to 250 employees and corporate people. Like we have to do our jobs inside as well. Like anybody who I'm working with, anybody who I campaign for, you got to put some heat under their ass right now. You have to. It's just no option. You have no option.
Yep.
I agree so much with what you said. And this topic, like I'm literally shaking right now.
I am too, like, cause I am too, babe. Go ahead.
Like, and I don't want to cry because I'm known for doing that, but it's such a sensitive topic for me. And this whole movement has resurfaced so much trauma from my childhood, from growing up as a young adult, and then also just as a professional in this industry. Sorry, I'm like, see, you started this.
Take your time. Take your time.
You know, it's very interesting because, you know, I've been looking at this in so many levels. Just first being a developer of a brand, I'm thinking about intent, right? So working with so many brands and hearing them say from a fiscal perspective that it doesn't make sense to make certain shades, but then seeing all of the brands that I know, including my own, who have much less means, much less resources, whenever they create, even if the brand is geared towards women of color, they never exclude everyone else. And every brand that you look at, I don't care if you're talking from Floyd Roberts to whatever it is, they always are inclusive in its totality. And maybe they direct their energies to paying attention to shades that have been ignored, but they always think about everyone. Working with a lot of brands and having the opportunity to have a seat at the table and be at those tables and watch how shades of women of color are developed without any deep intent to service the community hurts a lot. Seeing brands just like throw one or two at the end so that it can paint it can create a veil of talking to everyone, but knowing deep down that that was never the intention. You know, developing a line, whether it be for complexion or shadows, wherever else, and then the shades that always get omitted at the end are the shades that would service deeper skin tones, women of color. And hearing conversations like, you know, we don't buy makeup, or they don't buy makeup, as if I'm not one of those people, is disturbing. And it has been being, I mean, I can go on, but I think the reason why people are so upset right now, especially when brands are posting images that are not really indicative of what they've been creating over the years, it hurts. It's almost like you're punching us in the face or in the stomach. It's painful, and it's like, and I know a lot have good intent, like, wow, we didn't get it, and let's support. But when you happen to be in those rooms and know that there was an opportunity to get it and it was choice, it's very different. And I think, you know, what I love about what's happening right now is that conversations that have been happening for years and years are finally being listened to. And whether it's because people are afraid of what their company will look like financially after this or not, whatever the intent is, at the very least, people are really actively listening, which is the part that makes me hopeful now. But I think if I was to say something to all of the companies who are now doing something different, I would say, look at every single level of your organization. You know, there has to be more than a token person in the room, or the one token person in your brand that makes you feel comfortable making the choices that you make, because you have Sir John with you. And this is not to call out a brand in particular, but just as a hypothetical. I think the intent needs to be that if you say you're creating for everyone, that you're really doing that. You know, from the photographers that you hire, from the makeup artists that you hire, from the models that you use to represent. You know, sometimes a brand will just choose the darkest model that they can find on the planet, but it's not from a good place. It's almost, Say that, what'd you say?
Fetishized beauty, almost like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's not really to represent, I just want it to come from a real place of good intent to really service the community. And when you do have those voices in the room, to really listen to them and not just to have them there for show. To really have people there to actively contribute to formulation, even with the labs that you work with. You know, sometimes development is done at labs where there's no one of color there. So they make really beautiful formulas, but they cannot even fathom like what the pigmentation of the product needs to be, what that product needs to feel like, what the coverage level needs to be like in order to service, you know, medium to dark skin. So I think it's holding everybody accountable on every level of development, on every level of communication through advertising, everything, not just, as you mentioned, a post, or I'm going to give you $500,000, because honestly, that's meaningless too, if you're going to put all of your energy and resources somewhere else afterwards.
But you talk about intention, and I think intention is very important right now. Like, I'm not going to cry, but I am definitely shaking, because we're witnessing such upheaval. And at the end of the day, when you talk about change, you talk about intention. I think the only way that we're ever going to really have our voices heard and understood and to really make change is to look at the way we spend. We can't expect for these companies to simply hire a Black model or make darker foundations. There need to be initiatives. There need to be events. Once again, you started talking about, how do we meet this consumer? Are we at events? Are we in neighborhoods? Are these stores that we are in, are they accessible to this community? And unfortunately, it has become a dollars and cents issue. You know, many companies are adding shades. They aren't born in the spirit of diversity, like yours was, Bobby, you know, to be able to have a range and to always include. So what happens is, you know, we're left outside looking in, and we've always supported brands who don't support us. And that has to change.
Well, it's hard for me to listen to this, because I get it. And I'm so happy that there is going to be change through all this like passion. I am someone personally, as a makeup artist, that I never knew what the models would look like when they would come to the set, and I would have my kit and I could never find foundations that match people's skin. You know, they're from India, they're from, you know, from wherever. And I finally figured out as a young makeup artist how to mix and blend things so it didn't look like makeup on the face. And Sam, I know you use, you know, I'm not with the brand anymore. I don't even like talking about my days, but I always made sure that I had colors for everyone's skin. And I was really lucky, because my focus group were my makeup artists that were, you know, a very large amount of Black women and men.
Shout out to Cindy Watson.
Right, to Cindy, to Tia, to all of them. And they'd be like, no, this isn't right. It's too orange, it's too yellow. And I'd be like, okay, product development, change it. And you're right, we did not have a woman of color in product development. We didn't. But I was the one always pushing and pushing. And you know what? I think it is such an opportunity for brands to be inclusive. And, you know, I think it's a real positive, exciting time. And we're going to see so much change. And, you know, I get it. And I'm really happy for it, I have to say.
To jump in on that, like, I think we shouldn't be looking this as a full negative right now that brands don't have it. Yes, that's not good that they don't have it, but now every brand is making the change to have it. So every brand wants to have every shade that they can have. So
I don't know that to be true.
Inclusive.
I do not know that to be true.
No?
I do not know that to be true. There are many brands who have not posted, who have not said anything to the Black Lives Matter movement, who have not donated, and who continue to preach luxury and allow their general market, their general consumer, to continue buying their brands. The people
you don't think that they're making shades behind the scenes that they haven't announced yet because they don't have them yet?
No, and I don't think they care to cater to this consumer.
I don't think they have a choice, Sam. They're going to have to. They don't have a choice. They're going to have to get it together.
I love that. I'll tell you, you know, I love that certain brands sometimes don't offer shades for women of color. If you don't care to do it, if you don't want to align yourself with the initiatives, if you don't want to spend the time in development, if you don't want to not only have a foundation, but also have a loose powder and also have a pressed powder for my mom and 3 sisters, then you shouldn't be doing the initiative at all. And so I prefer knowing where not to go sometimes. I understand this is your vision. For 57 years, Lauder did not have a Black model. So great, I know not to buy anything there other than fragrance. I think that helps me to understand who I should be going to, that I should be going to IMAN Cosmetics and Bobbi Brown Cosmetics and DANESSA MYRICKS Cosmetics, because they are doing so much more than this one thing to take a stab at it and say, like, it's a political statement after all.
Well, I have to dive into this passion since I've spent my entire career working to meet the needs of this consumer. And for me, I think a critical point apart from shades, because we've been talking ad nauseum for the past few years about shades. I got 50 shades, I got 70 shades, I got 185 shades, we got more shades than we got people. That it's not simply about shades. It is about intrinsically understanding that consumer. Beauty is personal. Beauty is personal. When you look in the mirror, why do we put on any of this stuff? Because we want to feel good about ourselves, because we want to feel like our best selves. And so I think before we even start to talk about shades, we need to talk about that there's a respect and appreciation for the person buying the product. And if we care about her, then we care about how she's going to feel when she puts it on her skin. So for me, I think what needs to happen for a lot of companies, I mean, I'm very, very blessed to have been at IMAN Cosmetics for a long, long time. And prior to that, to worked on almost every, we don't call it ethnic anymore, now we call it multicultural brand, from Flory Roberts, DANESSA, you mentioned, to Posner, to Black Radiance. You know, I've directed all of these brands throughout my career. And what's been great is being able to bring an internal perspective about what that customer wants to the table, because sometimes it's not just that it's brown enough for her complexion, but the texture, but the feel of it. And what does the model look like? Is the model just sitting there looking like a blank canvas, or does she have a little attitude, a little something about her that the customer can connect to? So I think that if companies are wise right now, they would, number one, start asking people who look like the customer you're trying to attract, what do you want?
Yes.
Get to know her. You know, it is sad when, you know, I've had friends of mine who have come up the ladder through general market and have had so much wisdom, but no one asked them, because they're dealing with the mean girl crowd. You know, they're dealing with a whole bunch of, you know, chicks who just want to, you know, pop in with their Louboutins and feel fabulous, and overlook the people who sometimes have that kind of intrinsic heart-centered knowledge about the consumer. So I think there are multi-layers of problems going on here. I think the industry needs to come down off its high horse a little bit, get to know people, not be so quick to just have them be just one-dimensional caricatures on a page, and get to know who that consumer is. And so it's been a blessing in my career to not only be focused on, like all of you mentioned, in product development. I've been in those labs. I've argued with chemists and told them, no, that is not going to work for this brown skin sister, and we're going to scrap it and we will start again. Yeah. But apart from that, also, you know, talk to people about, no, that shade name's not gonna work. No, that angle of her face is not gonna work. No, she's not gonna like that. No, this one, you know, I've had my CEO read me about, okay, where's the girl with the natural hair? We need a natural hair girl in this campaign. You know, again, it's the nuances of what matters to our consumers, that if we're not in touch with that, yeah, then, you know, putting up a black box on an Instagram post, or just giving a donation or whatever, those shallow gestures are not going to work right now. I think that's what shallow gestures will not work. We have to get to know one another as human beings.
Yeah. I think that the posting on Instagram and just posting on Instagram in general, saying you support the movement, isn't enough. Every brand needs to do action, even if they haven't been active on socials. They need to be active behind the scenes as well. I know socials is a huge movement and it shows representation, but it also is a curtain up front, because if you're not doing things behind the scenes, then you're not really making change. And so I don't think it's all about, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. I think people need to step back and actually be that change. I personally feel it's more important to make your movement, have your change, and then announce it, than to announce it and then try to make your change. Because then it's more impactful and it's already done. And it's not like, is this happening yet? Because if you announce things before you complete,
Right.
then it's almost like a shallow, empty gesture. And I think there's a period of change in the industry where, Sam, I agree 100% with your points that you made earlier. I am not on the brand side, so I can't speak specifically to this, but I think it is hard to 100% change gears immediately and have that product out. I'm not on that side, so I don't know how fast it is to make. So I do think it's important for those brands to make that change internally very quick and then announce it. But that does bring me to another question. How can individuals, their peers who are watching, and us, and those with you that work with brands and have brands, how can we help build inclusivity in the industry? How can we have a part in that to help brands change and bring that stronger together?
I just have a question. I just want to go back to this a little bit, but I feel like it's great about the shades, but also if you have no Black board members, you're not modern. You know, if the advertising agencies, listen, I came working in fashion, I was the only Black person on set all the time. If they're not diversifying makeup agencies, hair, when you look at the big agencies, Patrick, we all know as artists who are working, guys, there is no Black talent. There's no multicultural talent on these boards at all. The casting is archaic. Fashion is still supremely racist. And if we think about it, as we delve into this luxury business, we're also upholding a lot of a lot of white supremacy by loving these brands that don't love us back. And so, listen, I feel like we need to continue to campaign. To your next question, like, what do we do? How do we advocate for change? Continue to campaign. When we wanted sustainability and packaging, we got it. When we wanted, clean initiatives, we got it. When we wanted vegan or cruelty-free, what happened? There are more boxes to be checked off at this moment. I think that we're in a pivotal moment right now where you're either on the right side, either get down or lay down. And that's what it is. And also, if the big brands don't get it, that you'll see so much birth of indie brands. You'll see more love for people who can speak to an audience that just is not spoken to.
There are so many indie brands right now, and I have to say I'm working with a bunch of founders that, of different brands, and it's such a cool opportunity. And I know a few of them are on today listening, and I find it such a great moment. And if any of you guys don't have your brand yet, now is the time. And it's so easy to do. It wasn't easy to do 30 years ago, but it's much easier to do something and get it out there. And I suggest that, most people that have brands just try to be, different and better than what's out there.
And the challenges, though, it's not just simply, as you know, Bobby, DANESSA, Patrick, who have brands, and even Karen, that it's not just about creating a wonderful brand, but it's about being received by retailers, getting that wall space, having the money and the backing to go into department stores and do a brand in totality that, like you talk about intention, to make sure that it can meet the audience's need. And that goes back to Sir John's point about being in the boardroom. This goes back to talking to VCs. This goes back to talking about the people who are buying these businesses and able to bringing them to be global. If we aren't in those rooms, every conversation goes back to the room, that seat at the table. And you can't birth these brands. You can't scale these brands. You can't bring these brands to my mom's neighborhood without that assistance. I'm happy to see that Sephora has taken an initiative to, 15% of Black-owned businesses. And that's wonderful. But I think that, I'd be remiss not to acknowledge the trauma. I love DANESSA, that I feel you, I'm shaking, because the trauma of everything that we have done to even get to this point, to have this conversation, has been such a challenge. We're often the only African-American people of color in the room, in the lab, on the sales floor, everywhere, and it's not enough. We're gonna have to look about the dollars that we're spending and be a lot more conservative into understanding a little bit more. The Pull Up for Change was an eye-opener as well. Many people, if you guys aren't familiar with Pull Up for Change, basically asking for companies to chime in and say how much of their staff were people of color and break it down. And there are a number of companies that offer, they say they want to do better. They want to do better because they don't have any African Americans on their staff. Yet I find it interesting that they say they want to build a brand and create shades for women of color. It doesn't balance out. It doesn't balance out. You know, and I think that what is ahead of the intention is the search for money. And everyone is so concerned about sale that we have to go back and think about the intention.
I have a question for Patrick. So Patrick, you're a baby in the biz. You're rocking and rolling. You're a rock star right now, bro. And can you hear me? Oh, shit, sorry. Yeah. So what I want to ask you is, as you were developing a brand, you know, and you know, you have your pulse on, you know, you're younger than me, you know, you have your pulse on what's happening. How has this movement, or how has this revolution, should I want to say, not even movement, how has it affected, you know, the way you approach the business in terms of a consumer situation? Because, you know, you're future.
This whole, like, with COVID, with Black Lives Matter, it's been like a very scary transition. Like, as like a really small business owner, a lot of people, I've been getting a lot of comments about just like telling me to share my employees and like who is behind the brand and how many Black employees do I have. And to be honest, like, people think that I have CEOs and all these things when it's only me and my business partner. Like, I don't have employees. I don't have all these people that people might think that we do, but we are the ones that are doing the product development. And I do have to say, like, the manufacturers that I work with, and it is really hard sometimes to pick products and formulas when, again, there is no African American people in the as like your counterpart in the manufacturer. So you have to basically go off on what I know, and it's been an eye opener for me, just because when this, like, I have to be honest, like, a lot of people truly don't like spend the time to educate themselves about what's happening in the world. They don't. They're busy doing what needs to be done to sustain their life. And I think because of COVID, a lot of people are at home, and a lot of people are actually listening. I'm listening, and people are learning from it. And it's a time for people to, I mean, especially for me, like, just to grow and to learn. And I think that definitely, like, with my brand, I started off with very like small amount of products, and it's as we grow, and like, with what DANESSA said, when you make products, you need to think about the woman that is going to buy this. And I just think that, I mean, it's taught like a lot of people, and it's definitely taught me as well. So
It's a teachable moment.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you saying that, Patrick. And I think, I mean, I think it was beautiful that you said that, and I can feel you right now. And what I want to say is, there have been brands, because there are brands that have reached out with really pure hearts and really good intention to learn. So I just want to be clear, it's not everybody. It's never always everybody, right? There are those people who really have the best of intention and are really reaching out to learn. And I think the focus should be on education on many, many levels. So like Patrick mentioned, just now that you're aware and understand where to look and where the adjustments need to be made, actually doing it, that action. But I think for all the people who are listening too, the power of the indie brand cannot be like, if you cannot get a seat at that table, just let's focus on creating our own tables to sit at, right? And I think there are so many resources available now. There's so much education available. Michael, you asked earlier, like, what we are doing individually or what a brand can do right now. That's an action item. I know for me, and the circle that I'm in, our whole energy is about education right now. It's like, we're going to be doing webinars on how to start a brand, how to get investment dollars, mentorship programs for people who want to learn development, learn how to do shade matching. I think there's just a lot of people who just don't know. And even in the places who teach these things, they don't even teach it. You know what I mean? I think the opportunity is for artists like us who are in it every single day, who are traveling all around the world and seeing all the faces, understanding all the different places that people live and what the environment of makeup is for them, and coming back and saying, okay, well, I have all the answers, now let me just make something. So I think sometimes it's not always about waiting for what somebody else is going to do. Sam, I think you made a really great point, because it's okay. Like, if I have my brand and I have my vision, I don't want anybody else telling me what to do. So I don't even think it's so much about bullying people into doing anything. I think it's important that people just make their intentions clear, who they want to communicate to, who they want to sell to, and that's okay. And as a consumer, we need to learn to support the people who are creating, you know, for your needs or for you. But then there's also opportunity for us to create as well. I know when I first started doing makeup, there was nobody teaching how to do makeup for women of color. Like, everything, like if there was a school available and I could go, there wasn't any information for me. I mean, for everybody who's on this panel right now, we all teach. And one of the #1 things that people ask, how do you do makeup on darker complexions? And it doesn't matter where I go in the world. It doesn't matter where I go. Brazil, where more than half of the population are my complexion, they still don't know how to do makeup for women of color because no one's teaching it. So I think it's about us looking at ourselves and what can we personally do in our own little world to educate. And to use that as a platform for you to create a new business, create a new cosmetic line, create a forum for education, for teaching. When you're teaching those things that people aren't teaching, or teaching those things that aren't readily available, those nuances that people need to understand. I think that this whole movement is just creating space for more entrepreneurs to create new platforms, to regenerate, to change just the economic playing field. So instead of like screaming, why don't you? I'm like you said earlier, okay, I'm gonna make that. They don't wanna make that, I'm gonna make that. They don't wanna teach that, I'm gonna teach that. And I think there are pretty much everybody on this call has the capacity to create on their own level and contribute and not wait.
If I can just piggyback quickly off of what DANESSA just said, I thought that was beautiful. And what I want to say to both brands or businesses within the industry who are interested and willing to get invested around diversity, pay people to talk to you about this. And I want to say to multicultural people who are listening, who are artists, who are educators, be prepared to get paid to share your knowledge. Because the other thing that tends to happen sometimes, because I got a call recently from a very established organization, which I won't mention their name, and was actually a bit insulted because they really wanted to hear like a whole lineup of what to do when it is their job to research and investigate what to do. And if they need to diversify internally, to get that done and to be more informed, then in the same way that, you pay other general market folk to do what they do, it's time to be that respectful to people of color. Because, and this isn't just even in our industry, a lot of folk of color are getting those calls. What do I do? What do I do? How do I handle this? How do I move forward? And that really is an undue pressure to put on folk unless you are willing to respect that knowledge and partner with that person. Because like everybody said, that seat at the table is important and it's to be respected. So if you are a general market brand and you are looking to know more, there's a plethora probably right out here on this call of experts at all different levels to be involved with helping you understand this customer better and to be more engaged. But don't use people and don't tokenize people and don't just bring on a black face to go, okay, look, we tick this box. Like, that's not okay either. And we also need to know and value our worth, what we bring to the table in terms of knowing that skin, knowing that tone, knowing that customer, knowing what to do is really, really valuable information. So it's important to know your worth and for folk to know our worth as well.
Karen, can I say something to you? I think it's super important what you said just now, and also hire cultural advisors. You know, like they're so, like you said, hire cultural advisors. Even as a guy, listen, I'm such a feminist, and you need to have people who don't necessarily understand your plight to campaign for you. Like I think that we're in the era of allyship. And when I say allyship, it's how can I campaign? How can I actually, you know, echo the sentiment of change that is happening around me culturally? So that's why when you see the front lines, when I look at TV, when I look at, you know, Japan, Russia, South Africa, everyone's walking in a direction for a movement, because we understand what it truly looks like in real time to be an ally. And I think right now we can all internally do the work. I think right now there's a lot of internal work that needs to be done. And then we go back to work, you know, asking, you know, and educating yourself. How can I be a great ally? How can my brand be an ally for people who don't necessarily, even though I don't understand? I can't walk the walk, but I can not just sympathize, I can champion you. You know, as a guy, it took white people in civil rights movement to get the agenda farther. It takes men to go in the boardroom when there's a misogynist kind of conversation to say, hey, this is not appropriate. This is not okay in this office. So you have to create a culture of where you want to be. And I think that's all of our job. And it's a rainbow coalition of allyship that has to happen moving forward. And that's kind of basically the most modern way to get out of this, you know?
I could not agree more. I mean, there's no turning back. There's no changing anything. There's only moving forward. And I wish we could change the past, because that can make things so much better and so much different, but we can't. My life would be different. So I think the passion that we have and the collective that we have here, even us on this call right now, can be a voice for change. The power that each of you have on your socials and on your life and the brands that you represent can impact hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. And so using your platform as you are, I think, is one of the best ways to help incite that change moving forward. People who have a platform, say influencers, makeup moguls, CEOs, if you have a platform, use it to preach from the highest points that you can about getting this change to happen. If you have a platform and you're not utilizing it for this movement that we need to happen, for the change that needs to happen moving forward because of COVID in each respect, you should not have that platform. You're taking advantage of people's time, their money, and their, unfortunately, short viewer span that we have now, an attention span. You should be utilizing that for change. And the fact that we're having this and you guys are using your panel to push for that change is what we need to get others to do. And I'm hoping that when another makeup artist, another hairdresser, another EVP, another CEO sees what we are doing, that it'll be like, others are championing for this, I should get on that. Because so many people are afraid of what are they going to say, who is going to object to me. And you don't want to be on the wrong side of any part of history. You want to be on the right side, obviously. And who cares what people say, what they throw your way on in terms of not pushing for enough respect and inclusivity. And I think that you guys being on here and pushing for that is that start in that moment of change. Answering the questions that you did, bringing up points are huge. Sam, I can't tell you with I was very on the fence, like, do I post just a black square or do I post informative knowledge that I think is helpful? And I was on that fence of, should I post this or should I not? And I personally went with not posting a black square, but something that I felt was informative. And I think a lot of people who are unsure didn't want to make that leap of what to post because they're too afraid of outlash. And that's not the right decision. You should make the decision to make a supporting gesture. And it shouldn't just be a cold, empty gesture. You should do something behind the scenes as well. But I think there's a lot of fear on what's right and what's wrong in people, but we all know what's right, but it's the fear of what's someone going to think. And personally, I don't care if someone gets upset with me or thinks that, why would you post that? Because that's not the person I want to associate with. And that's the fear that we have to get past. That this time in our lives is the defining moment of who should be in your circle and who shouldn't. And I really think this is the moment that we decide that, and people will make that change. And it might not be immediate, but I think it's important that we're all here talking about this. This is one of the biggest civil rights movements that has happened in 50, 60 years. We may never see something like this again in our lifetimes. What side do you want to be on? What side does the brand want to be on? What movement do you want to push? And so I think this is fantastic. I mean, Patrick, you have a line in its infancy, this is your time that it can shine and it can take over, because you can release everything that you already have and push for more. DANESSA, the same thing. This is like time for people of color and Black and whites and everyone to show what is right, that there isn't a difference between makeup lines. Like, yeah, in terms of quality, yeah, but this is your time to be like, yes, I want to be on the right side and have those products, because I'm on set so much and I can't tell you that I'm usually the only person who knows how to do Black hair. And if there is Black talent, there's a Black makeup artist. And it's always just like, why? But it's because those people don't have those products in their kits, because they're not aware of lines that don't necessarily make them. And it's our job to make people aware of what's out there and what's exists, and to show people what there is. And if that means creating DANESSA, your education that you're going to be having is amazing. If it's the fact of creating education to teach people how to do it. I was fortunate enough to learn how to do Black hair. Not everyone has that opportunity. I do grooming as well. And I was fortunate enough to have James Vincent as one of my mentors when I was first starting off, and he helped me learn a lot about different complexions and different ethnicities. And so I feel well versed, but not everyone has that opportunity. And I think it's our job to show everyone that opportunity and to spread that education. And if you have a line, offer that education on how to use those colors on different people and different races. And I think that's beyond important. I think all of us are here to push that fact in that moment. And I'm so excited that everyone was able to come here. Sorry, that's just something that has been sitting on me that I wanted to get off, because I just don't think there's enough notice of between, if I'm on set, someone else doesn't know how to do that skin color and I don't understand why. And I don't want to have to be that person to show another hairdresser or another makeup artist how to do it. Everyone should know how. But you guys are awesome for being that change that we need. And I just have one last question, because I know we're going a little longer than we were supposed to, is how are you going to transition back into real life and being on set after this, with these two different massive things going on, with the fact of basically racial injustice happening in the industry that we need to change, and with COVID? How do you guys address both those facts when you go back to work? Because I need to figure out how myself, and I know a lot of other people need to.
Nothing will change for me, Michael. Nothing will change for me. The same change that I started when I walk into a trailer and do not see diversity, I call it out. Sir John was
That's amazing.
Of mine. Valente Frazier was an assistant of mine. Ernesto Casillas is an assistant of mine, and I have pushed them towards their greatness. I live it. And I think it's important I've dedicated my career to beautifying women of color and champion artists of color every day. So nothing will change for me when I go back to work. Hopefully we'll be able to have more honest conversations about why the trailer isn't diversified. That's the conversation that will continue for me.
Good. See, that's what I like to hear.
For me, guys, normal wasn't working, okay? Fuck normal. So I feel like we really have to go back into a new life. Like, I'm going back to work almost like it's the first day of school all over again. And when I say the first day of school all over again, it's, you know, the fight that your brothers and sisters who happen to have melanin have had on editorial sets with fashion directors. Doesn't matter if you came on with a major star or if you came in to do an editorial, it's been quite different. And so, and not knowing that it's been different is where the privilege gap lies, you know? So for me, like, just continue the campaign. I feel so good and so it's so healing to be outspoken about diversity right now. It's when you don't want to talk, when you don't know what to do, just ask, how do you feel? Can I check in with you? My Black people, like brown people, people who have less privilege than you do. If you don't know what to do, champion someone else's voice. Allow them the space to, you know, exhale on your platform. Use their words, you know? All of these spaces, this is modern movement. And so for me, like, what is it like going back? I'm not thinking about COVID. I'm just thinking about how can we make this world a more multi-culti, how can, you know, Black people feel okay on set, feel not terrorized by the fashion industry, you know, and that holds up white supremacist ideology since the start of cinema. Since we've had a television screen, we've been conditioned. So for me, I'm just gonna try to continue to break down the conditioning and with a little bit of swag and keep it moving, you know?
Yep.
For me, it's just about being open. It's just about being sensitive. It's just about listening, and it's honestly communicating. Just having an open dialogue And especially when you go back into studio, you're going to have to ask everyone, are you comfortable with this? How do you feel? And just in general, it's being a kinder, better, nicer person. Hopefully everyone out there will learn that that is the way to live your life.
Amen.
I think with me,
Well put.
same thing with Bobby, like just being more open, being more sensitive, and just like trying to use my platform to help younger creatives that like, I know when I first started, like moving to LA is the scariest thing. And like with all this going on, like it's already hard for young artists to like even like break into like this scene. So I think that it's like our jobs as people who, as creators who do have the luxury of having a bigger name or a bigger like social platform, to help like the newer generation, like help our assistants and like help like just help people grow instead of just, I think again, just like being more open and being more giving.
I think that's amazing. And I think it's
for me,
very important.
for me, I'm going to be less quiet. You know, I have to say, I felt a little bit of guilt at one point during this whole movement, and not because I was doing anything wrong, is that I felt at moments I wasn't doing enough of the right thing in the moments where it really counted. So I thought back at a lot of opportunities that I had, you know, when I was at that table to speak louder, to push a little more, you know, but the other side of my brain was, you know, I didn't want to be seen as an angry Black girl, and I don't want to ruin it for all the other, you know, people of color who might have an opportunity to work here. So there was always that internal battle, like how much will you say, you know, how quiet should you be? And I think, you know, this solitude has given me the space to make the decision to be more vocal, to be more active in pushing this message across, and to be more active in education. I think, you know, education is going to be my focus primarily. I think 80% of what I do moving forward, at least for now to the rest of the year, is going to be education and mentorship, because I think it needs to be more than 1 or 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 people who have the ability to do that. And there's so many people who want to be in these spaces, but they don't have the opportunity to be. So with a little bit more education, maybe it'll be 5 of us around the table or 10, and it wouldn't even be a conversation because there always will be somebody listening. So I think my initiatives moving forward is to kind of, you know, like you said, Sir John, just kind of like pull more people along with information.
And for me, it's honestly, it's been such an affirming time. Affirming for me in relationship to the brand, that the vision that Iman started with this brand over 25 years ago and over her extensive career, that it was the right direction at the right time and is the right direction still. And that's wonderful to be in that space. And then also just personally, you know, I think back over my career and how many times, you know, other folk might feel a little more superior because maybe they worked for a bigger general market brand, where I chose to work for a multicultural brand. And I look back now and I am grateful for all these opportunities to really be invested in the spaces that were invested in me. And so that has felt incredibly affirming, and similar to what DANESSA said, that idea of mentorship, that idea of being there for that next generation, that's pretty exciting now. Being the old head in the OG in a lot of rooms now, it feels really good. And it feels good to, you know, wrap my arms around those that are coming next, and to be able to kind of share that and share that enthusiasm and share that inspiration that this is their time. And it's an exciting time to be alive. It's an exciting time to be part of this revolution. It's an exciting time for the overall industry to be evolving, and for them to be able to find their way in a manner that's way more authentic than many of us had the luxury of being as we came up in our careers.
Amen. Amen.
Yes. So I think we've answered a lot of topics and a lot of questions. I know that there's a lot that we didn't get to. For those that are watching, I highly recommend you sign up for your educator's class for the one that you didn't get to answer a question. We have Bobby Brown doing Q&As. We got Mr. Sir John doing some Q&As. DANESSA's got 5 days of teaching. So if you do have other questions, please get their class. and you can watch and learn and get a wealth of knowledge coming to them. I can't thank you guys enough for this. I would love to do something like this again, because I think there's other questions that I would like to get to. We just don't have enough time. So anyone have any closing statements? Or
I just want to see everyone's makeup techniques. I've got all this talent, and I want to see how someone else does things. So I think there's one of these days we got to just figure out how to share the way we use our craft.
I love it.
But also,
Absolutely
Michael,
agree.
hey, dude,
Yep.
thanks for giving this right here. This is the future. This is it. This is community. Like, community is the way out of any area that you feel isolated or marginalized. Is championing someone else's story. So be okay with having the conversations, guys.
And this was so therapeutic for me. Thank you guys. You guys have left me with so much. This is the first call that I've taken since the protests. I'm on Hollywood and Vine, and I get a chance to join them and give water out to the protesters and cheer them along. And it is very challenging living in these times, and there's so much trauma that we all are dealing with, having been in this industry as long as we have been. And so thank you for everything that you said, from the oldest to the youngest, Patrick Ta. And so thank you.
I'm so happy. Let me know when you guys want to do this again.
Yes.
And so for the future,
Love you guys.
we love you.
Love you
Love
guys.
Talk to you
everybody
very
who's
soon.
listening and who tuned in.
Thank you so much. I'll talk to you all soon.